I am resident of Collinwood for YouTube, joined by my buddy Patrick McCray, author of the Dark Shadows Daybook and the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound, and my buddy Bobby Lugosi here. Patrick, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm right. Can you not see me?
No, I can't see.
Sweet midgets. We just, which is the type of pickles. But I don't. Wait a minute. Okay, how about now?
Yeah, now I can see you. That's people are like disappearing and reappearing. I feel like I'm working with Houdini.
You want to see my impression of a screensaver?
Oh God. Before we get started on the fun, guys, we are here to talk about the arrival of Barnabas Collins. Paul Reubens, the late Paul Reubens, passed away. He played Pee Wee Herman. Please join me in a moment of silence for the late Paul Reubens. Okay. Guys, again, thank you guys for joining me for the start of this. We'll start with Bobby. What did you think about not just the arrival of Barnabas Collins, but to lead up to that, we get the introduction of Jason McGuire and the man who's going to ultimately release Barnabas, Willie Loomis. What did you think of their introductions as well?
I really liked it. Because both of them are such wonderful characters. Like, first meeting Jason McGuire at the coffee shop, and then Willie Loomis, and I love how they did it. I love how it was going in a typical soap opera direction. A character, a black male plot, and then it went in that direction. So I love how they created it within the soap opera world.
Yeah. Patrick, what did you think?
Of what part specifically?
Of Jason showing up and ultimately bringing Willie Loomis to Collinsport, the man who's going to free Barnabas. What did you think of that?
Well, it's really interesting because you have the theoretical villain,
right?
The one that everyone, that's the really bad villain is Barnabas. But, for someone who is supposed to be the big bad of the show, we see them both kind of trapping women and trying to control women and trying to control women into marriages.
Yeah.
Think about it. Jason's trying to get Liz into a marriage based on things from the past. Barnabas is trying to get Maggie into a marriage based on things from his past. So there are definite similarities. And I think that's a wonderful accident. All this stuff on the show is a great accident. But for these guys who are sort of parallels in a way, we very quickly, everyone comes to the same conclusion, unless they're wrong. And that is that Jason McGuire is the bad guy. Yeah. He's really Barnabas is doing what he's doing out of love, out of a sense of trying to right a wrong that he feels was done to both him and Josette. I think he sort of sees himself as a cult deprogrammer. He was introduced to this vast world of mysticism and he is still trying to put it together. So as far as he knows, maybe Josette really is inhabiting Maggie. And Jason is he is a creature of lust and greed. And those are two things, perhaps because of his privilege, but those are two things that are not going on with Barnabas. For all the things that we're afraid of with Maggie, we're not afraid that she's going to be sexually assaulted. Right. And Barnabas, frankly, has so much money, the Collinses would do well to rob him. So, he's not in it for greed or anything like that. So they're reflector characters in a way. And Jason is brought on, so we ostensibly think, okay, this is where we're going. And then suddenly we bring in this other character, seemingly different, both bad guys, but they start informing each other. And the other interesting thing is that Barnabas is not the first vampire on the show. Really, if you look at vampire as a metaphor, it starts out, it's Jason, kind of attacking and draining Liz, and like when Roger comes in and says, Liz, there's something wrong. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like Jason looking at Willie and saying, there's something wrong with you, boyo. I don't know what it is, but I'll get the IRA to help me figure it out or whatever. And then, of course, Jason is being vampirized by Willie, who's giving him stories and manipulating him and so on. And, saying, no, I don't want anything in the mausoleum. I'm going to go to the mausoleum. Thinking that he can get away with it. And so it's this endless chain of vampires, in a sense, until the real force of family retribution is there to start chasing things upstream. First by attacking Willie, and then by taking Willie away from Jason, slowly making Jason's life more and more difficult until he just gets tired of it and strangles him when Jason interrupts his sleep. And isn't that marvelous? Isn't that fantastic? Because there the rules change. This is not a world where a petty criminal is going to rule the roost at all. And I think that whole chain of vampirism is fascinating. And how our expectations are inverted with it.
Bobby, you still there?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, I find turning the camera off and on helped me.
I'll give you my theory about something I thought about when I was watching this back. I don't think Barnabas would have ever killed Maggie.
No, I don't think so either.
Here's why I say this. Here's a man who knows what his abilities are and aren't. And pretty much his abilities are he can disappear and reappear. He can control somebody by looking into their eyes. He has the Dracula powers. And he knows the secret passages, and every secret passage like the back of his hand, and he should be. If Maggie had not escaped through the secret passage, though she does, one, I think when Barnabas would have went down there, he would have opened the cell. He would have looked at her, and what I think he would have saw? Josette's mangled face. And he would have said, just go. Just leave.
That's right. Yeah.
I think that's what he would have saw and thought, I can't do it. I can't do this to this woman. What was, and he just lets her go. Now, when she escaped, yeah, he's chasing her. But here again, he's chasing her through a passageway he knows by heart. He could literally disappear and appear in front of her and stop her.
Be on the other end.
Right. He doesn't. And why? Because he has no intention of killing this woman. He has every intention of letting her go. The only reason, what makes him so angry, most of all, I think in the back of his mind, though she's not there yet, is everything Angelique did. He's still angry. You talked about forgiveness before, Patrick. He's still not ready to forgive.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Along those lines, do you think if that scenario had played out, okay, if Barnabas had gone to kill her, and then said, "Oh God, I can't do this. Just go. Just get your picture, that they took as the log ride went down the thing on the way out, and just go." Do you think his moral return would have started earlier?
Yeah, I do.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. But I also think too the writers weren't ready for that yet. They weren't.
They had no idea that was possible.
Right. They didn't yet. They weren't. They didn't know it was. But I think that secretly, the writers were subconsciously making, because there's again, who's Barnabas's conscience? A thief named Willie Loomis.
Right,
Who before Barnabas goes down to chase her, Willie's like talking to him. Barnabas does not have to stand there and listen to Willie. We've seen him not stand there and listen to Willie plenty of times. And yet he's standing there listening to this man talk to him about, do you really have to kill her?
Something occurred to me that if you think about, your typical vampire story, which is the Barnabas thing, which they invented, of the vampire, and he holds the girl hostage, and he wants the girl to, or the guy in the case of Jonathan Harker or whatever, to become, his bride or his pal or whatever. And of course, it doesn't quite work out the way the vampire plans, and that's the ritual of the story. Did you ever consider that parallel time is completely the inverse of this? That it's essentially this guy who sort of becomes a vampire fanboy, Willie, holding Barnabas hostage until Barnabas spills everything and kind of becomes his pal. And by pal, I mean creative collaborator. But it's interesting how the series, I don't want to sound like the goons talking about George Lucas's Ring theory about, it's like a poem, it all rhymes, the George Lucas weirdos who say that stuff. But it is. Isn't that amazing? So we look at how Jason McGuire and Barnabas kind of, mirror each other as mutual vampires holding these women hostage, forcing them into marriage. And then Barnabas goes from being held hostage or from holding someone hostage to be his partner to being held hostage to be someone else's partner. Wacky. Bobby, your thoughts?
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Talking like this.
No, it was wonderful listening to you guys. But no, I agree. It's I love how it goes full circle like that, and how it's like the inverse. How now Willie has him captive, and instead of a secret, he wants to tell the world. Like I think it's just wonderful how it went full circle like that. Like the writers were so in tune with like how like powerful it could be.
It's interesting. Were they in tune with how powerful it could be, or were they simply such innately good storytellers that these patterns just kind of emerged out of their work without them really even thinking about it? Because they did very little of this on purpose, but it's there.
Right, yeah.
Explain that. Isn't that just the magic of the show?
It is. It was just because it was like they were all kind of running a marathon. Yeah. And it didn't come out of like this like genius like master plan. It just came out of like just doing it.
And I think just sensitivity to the ritual of certain types of stories being told.
Yeah.
What did you think of Barnabas kidnapping Maggie, Robert? Or Bobby, sorry.
No, it's okay. I know. I thought it was like very, very spooky the way he did it, and like, I mean, it was such a like when I first saw it, I remember like it was so different from Dracula, the way he held her captive and was like trying to turn her into Josette, the way he did it, because he really wanted that to happen. He didn't just it wasn't just drinking her blood and making her that way. It was he wanted her to like go into that on her own, like in her own way. So I really loved it.
Now for the Barnabas Collins portrait, it's at the end credit. It's during the end credits of 204, but the first full episode we see it is 205. So what did you guys think of David Collins showing Willie Loomis the portraits and showing Barnabas' portrait to Willie Loomis? What did you guys think of that, Bobby?
I loved it. I thought it was. I love how it's like the little boy who shows them that, and that's what gets his wheels turning about it. Like, what a great introduction.
Yeah.
I
Patrick?
agree. I mean, it's this whole from the mouths of babes thing, and I think it just has this wonderful, ironic, inevitability to it, I think is the way I would put it.
A young boy who's so fascinated with ghost and family history himself isn't aware of the story around Barnabas, only the story he knows, and shows a thief Barnabas's portrait, and Willie sees the jewelry, and I like how we see like the big eyes coming out of the portrait. It looks so cool. What did you guys think of that?
I love that effect.
It's a marvelous effect. It's again, it's just this is this moment of pure cinema, pure storytelling, and yeah, I mean, it commands your fascination and respect.
We hear the heartbeat through the portrait. I have a question for both of you. Do you guys think they were sort of somewhat taken from Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I think it would be hard not to, but at the same time, if I found out no, then that's also a thing.
Yeah, Bobby.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just like knowing like Dan Curtis's passion for horror.
Yeah,
like I could just I could definitely see like why behind the scenes, and two, it's such a signature thing about the Telltale Heart. But I love how that's what's so great about Dark Shadows is the way they integrate it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be aware of the Telltale Heart to like think what a cool like imaginative thing that is.
The first time I heard Telltale Heart was from Jonathan Frid.
Cool.
And it was live.
Cool.
It was live. It was just fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was in Louisville at a convention with Roger Davis was there also. Yeah, it was great.
Cool. So Willie's doing some research on the Collins family history, especially the Naomi Collins legend, how she was given jewels by a pirate and buried with those jewels. This is the most reading Willie Loomis has probably ever done in his life. But we also get a really John Carlin is gonna be our primary Willie Loomis next. He's gonna replace the previous actor, and there's been a lot of good setup, especially the tension with Burt Devlin, and we actually get prior to the release of Barnabas, we get a fight within the Blue Whale between Burke and Willie, who's now played by John Carlin, and I love this fight sequence in the Blue Whale between the two of them. What did you guys think of that, Bobby?
Oh, I thought it was great. It was really well done, really exciting, and you're always been aware of like what a tough guy Burke Devlin is. So to really see him in action, it was just a really great fight scene.
Yeah,
it was a long time coming, and it lets us know that he is even more of a force to be reckoned with than we thought. Yeah. And I like that.
I like how there's a scene before that where in the prior episode, Burt grabs Willie, who's played by John Carlin, and he presses him up against the clock. He goes, "Listen, punk." Like, it's such a cool scene when he does it too, because
it makes me wish he had been Dirty Harry.
Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love because it calls back to like him being in prison. Like you could see how he was a tough guy,
Mm-hmm.
Did Bobby, did you ever see Mitchell Ryan and Magnum Force?
No, I haven't.
Go watch. That's a Dirty Harry movie. It's after the first Dirty Harry movie. It's really good. It's really, really good.
Is Tyne Daly also in that?
She's in the third one. She's
okay.
She plays his partner in the third Dirty Harry movie.
Okay.
So there's that. the fourth Dirty Harry movie, I know I'm getting off topic, so I apologize.
Oh, no, go for it.
Is Dirty Harry is Dirty Harry versus, in a sense, it's the Death Wish crossover that should have been, but instead of Paul Kersey, instead of the mustache of Charles Bronson, you get nut job Sandra Locke.
Wait, now that's Tightrope. Isn't she also like a little wacky in Tightrope?
Yeah, but with Sudden Impact, with number 4, she plays a rape victim who's shooting the men who raped her balls off.
I remember.
It's a great movie, by the way.
Yeah,
great movie.
The collectible popcorn container at the theaters was not a good thing. It had police evidence written on it, and I don't think it had the appetizing effect they wanted.
By the way, Clint Eastwood directs that one as well. So
he does. And guess who the villain is? Or guess who the first victim is in the next movie?
Oh, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is a heroin addict. It's insane.
No way.
Yeah.
Part 5 is called Deadpool, which is the 5th and final Dirty Harry movie we got. Though here's the thing, there is secretly a 6th if you count it, and it's it also has Sandra Locke in it. It's
which way you can.
Well, there's
the orangutan.
No, it's where they're going through Arizona, and he has to drive this bus, and I forget what it's called, but it's based. It has the guy from Hannum High, the guy who played the judge in Hannum High in it as well.
Yeah.
And he's not playing Harry Callahan. It's weird but he's playing a Harry Callahan character. He's playing a cop, and he has to take this witness in, and he doesn't know who to trust. There's cops shooting at him, people dressed as cops. It's basically a Dirty Harry movie without being a Dirty Harry movie. I'll have to look it up. I'll message you guys later. But I've seen the movie. I just can't think of the name.
When I heard about The Mule, and I heard it was about, issues involving south of the border and so on, I thought it was about a type of entertainment that's not legal in the United States. And I didn't know if Clint was involved or what was going on, but I didn't see the movie. Later, I found out it was about immigration, and I felt better. But I was real worried, Joel. I was real worried.
Have you ever seen Two Mules for Sister Sarah?
Joel, the dark web is a place you need to stay away from. I don't feel clean having these conversations with you. I have to have talks with clergies for like imams and priests and rabbis after you're done with me. So what did the Two Mules do to Sister Sarah? What are they doing loose in a convent? This is just horrible.
Well, this will be my final off topic. The Clint Eastwood stars in another Western, and it's scored by Ennio Morricone, who scored the Dollar Trilogy.
Yeah,
and Shirley MacLaine co-stars in it with him, and she plays a nun, or at least a woman who's dressed like a nun, who is being attacked by these men in the desert. Clint Eastwood's character shows up and shoots the men, kills them, and he starts to rob them after he kills them. And she gets all dressed up, and he's like, Jesus Christ. And she goes, don't take the Lord's name in vain. So she's playing this nun. Here's a spoiler alert. She's not really a nun. She's actually a whore dressed as a nun.
And Clint is a nun. That's the irony.
It's a good movie. Check it. I own it on Blu-ray. It's Two Mules for Sister Sarah. It's a fun watch. But back to Dark Shadows. Okay, so Willie's doing all this research. Jason is getting suspicious of him, of doing all this research. He goes, I know you, Willie. You don't research nothing. I know you, boy. And so Willie just leaves without the money, without the $500 Elizabeth gave Jason to give to Willie to so his ass could leave Collinwood forever and Collinsport. And Victoria goes, well, I saw him take his things. And Jason's like, what? You saw him take his things? Well, it looked like his things. And Jason's like, nah, his bags are upstairs. And so Jason's now really suspicious. Willie goes to the mausoleum. He attaches the rope to the coffin of Naomi Collins. He attaches it to the pulley. He's trying to pull the lid up off Naomi's coffin. Unbeknownst to him, there's a secret door. It opens up, and inside there is a chain coffin. Willie decides, well, you know what? That chain coffin's going to be easier to open than this lid. And well, he gets a hammer and crowbar and starts chiseling away. And as he opens the coffin, he sees these jewels. He's happy first, and his eyes get white, and his skin gets white as a ghost. And we see a hand around his throat, and a legend is born. Barnabas Collins has come up out of the coffin. Guys, what did you think of this moment? Bobby?
Incredible. I absolutely love it. Like this, I remember when I got volume 1 of the DVDs, that was like that moment I was hooked. Is that part of seeing it come out. And I love how, like, again, it's you see like the classic horror connections. It's like similar to the opening of Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, but like, I don't know, it's like, to me it's like so much more stylish with like the hand and the ring. I just love it.
Patrick?
It's in the day book. I describe it as a moment that I had always known existed and had always been a part of my life, although I had never seen it. It just felt perfect.
Yeah.
It felt inevitable. It felt like seeing a famous skyscraper for the first time in real life. It's like you've always known about it, you've always seen it, it's always been sort of a part of your consciousness, but it's never really been there. And all the elements have never been pulled together like that.
You know how you have this expectation, and then the expectation gets met, not only met, but matched? That's
Yes.
what it was for me when I first watched this for the first time. When I watched Dark Shadows for the first time and saw the hand grab Willie, because when I was watching Dark Shadows, I didn't know there was a vampire because I watched it from the beginning. And I told my mom what I was watching. She goes, "Oh, did the vampire arrive yet?" I'm like, "Did what?" And then when the episode hit, I watched it and I knew here's the vampire. Then I saw Barnabas. He's a vampire. I'm thinking, what are you doing letting this dude in the door?
I don't know.
You're like screaming at him, like, no, get your crucifix, girl.
Jewel, what is that behind you?
What's that?
No, seriously, what's behind you?
Oh, I don't know.
Is that? Check your messages, Bobby. I see.
But
Barnabas.
it's really, really cool that you have this great moment where he enters the house and he introduces himself. It's really, really cool. And I just love it. It's one of those moments where they go on to do with the character that you really just appreciate Barnabas as a great, great character.
Wait, hold on. I was trying to check the messages.
What?
I lost you. Where'd you go?
Jewel, we're check your messages.
Where?
Jeez Louise, Jewel. Yes, I agree with you completely, Jewel, with everything that you've said. Profoundly. It changed television. And it changed vampire media. I don't think we had ever had the Hammer movies ever done a vampire being unleashed before like that. I mean, I know he gets put together from Blood Tang at one point, Like there's dried Dracula, now in Raging Cajun and traditional Transylvanian. But I don't think like this. I don't think there is a moment quite like this, really ever.
Hammer recently came back too, didn't they, as a film thing?
Yeah, they did that remake, I think, of Let the Right One In.
Okay, well, here's a prediction for you. I think they will do something like this soon.
I hope so.
I think
do a Dark
they'll sort of.
Oh,
I think they'll sort of do what House did, but turn it up 110 degrees.
Do you mean the haunted house movies, or do you mean
House of Dark Shadow? House of Dark Shadow.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like House with Hugh Laurie. There are a lot of houses. I'm not kidding. I didn't know. I'm a man of the 80s.
Well,
say House. I think William Catt.
House of Dark Shadows. I think they'll do something like that, but they'll turn it up 110 degrees. And I don't think it'll be a relative. It'll be Dracula. Dracula will be chained in a coffin because maybe they couldn't figure. Maybe the crucifix didn't work. Maybe the cross did work and the stake didn't. Maybe they tried staking and it didn't work, and they didn't know only sunlight could kill him.
Yeah,
that's something they could play with.
Okay. I'm down.
I'd watch it. I'd go.
Oh, definitely. I think that'd be great. Yeah. Because it's such a great moment, and I'm surprised that there hasn't been more imitators of it, because it is such an iconic moment.
Yeah, it would be cool to see for sure. I mean, I'm sure Hammer will do another vampire movie sooner rather than later. I mean, because we all hear it's about timing. Hey, the timing is now. Why not?
The Rantoul movie came out earlier this year. Last Voyage of Demeter's coming out.
Yep.
Would a Hammer Dracula movie involve the parachute pants? Like MC Hammer, I mean, would it have that flavor or?
Yeah, and what they're gonna do when the film opens up, you're gonna hear Too Legit to Quit. Okay, you're gonna hear Too Legit to Quit. You're gonna see MC, the MC Hammer dancers and all that.
The MC Hammer dancers or hamsters.
Either or,
because it was shortened to.
Listen, we'll put Lincoln in the video too. That way.
God, you say hammer dance. You say hamster dancer. I get Richard here. Let's call the whole thing off. What did I just say?
Oh my God! So, there's a really interesting conversation between Jason McGuire.
Well, it's not with me. Anyway, but I didn't contribute to it.
With Jason McGuire, Barnabas Collins.
Oh yeah. Okay, you're talking about real people.
Yeah, I'm talking. Yeah, real people. Real people. Oh my God. It's never a dull moment by my past. It's never. But
Jewel, I wish you would talk about that great conversation that Jason McGuire had.
Okay, so Jason McGuire sees Barnabas. He goes, hey, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" And Barnabas is like, "Nope, haven't we met?" "No, never." He goes, and Barnabas points to the portrait. "Oh, you look just like that. Oh, you're related to him." And Barnabas like, "Are you enjoying your stay at Collinwood?" And Jason's like, "Well, how did you know I was staying?" And we all know that, well, Willie's working for Barnabas. So what did you guys make of their first interaction together, Bobby?
I love it. I love how Jason McGuire always thinks he has the upper hand and Barnabas has the upper hand, and Jason doesn't know that he has the upper hand.
Yeah, Patrick.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying for all of Jason's bluster and all of Jason's ability to threaten Liz. The moment Barnabas walks in and is standing beside him, you just realize how minute and minute. What a disappointing cat toy Jason McGuire really is for Barnabas. It's like a particularly uninspiring cork.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Oh, this is what's scaring Liz. Okay, yeah,
Right.
fine, whatever. I'll take care of it eventually. So that's way down on his to-do list. Kill McGuire. After clean my jabot. Steam the coffin, things like that. Make that gunny sack for Maggie. I was like, okay, I guess kill Jason. Teach Willie macrame. So many more things.
I'd like to see a vampire's hit list, like what their to-do list is.
Yeah, funny thing to do with a to-do list, if anyone's ever going to see it like over your shoulder, make sure like midway in the list is just the words kill Bond.
Oh my god!
The fat man loves me. Anyway,
eventually we do get the death of Jason McGuire, and I think this is a smart move by the writers. Barnabas's first actual kill is Jason McGuire. If you have to feed the vampire anybody, feed them a heel, because feeding them a heel will make them somewhat sympathetic. And I think the writers did that on purpose.
Barnabas must have been, schnockered for a week, given the amount of whiskey that had to be in Jason's blood at all times. The only thing worse would have been if he had bitten Roger and he would have got alcohol poisoning. He found a little bit of hemoglobin in your Courvoisier, Roger.
Bobby, what did you think of Jason's death?
I thought it was wonderful, and you're so right. It's because you still have you. It does make you sympathize with Barnabas, because like you're because of how Jason is treating Liz. So I thought it was a wonderful scene, a great end for Jason McGuire.
My only thought is, it took you this long. It took you this long, Barnabas. You literally hear everything on the estate with your super hearing, and really, it took you this. I was relieved when he got around to it, but it's like, finally, it's like a teacher catching up with a bully. It's always too late, but it's satisfying.
Because Jason just kind of fell into his lap, He just happened to be down there.
Yeah, Dennis Patrick's Jason McGuire is peeking through the window. He sees Barnabas and Willie looking at the jewels, and he wants every bit of those jewels, and that's the reason Jason is coming in. He's coming in to rob Barnabas.
Me lucky charms.
Yeah.
I'm McCray. I can say it.
He confronts Willie. Where are they at? And he goes, they're downstairs with him. They're downstairs. And he's meaning Barnabas. And before Jason opens the coffin, Willie's like, don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, Willie, you wouldn't listen. Yeah, Willie, I wouldn't listen to you. And when he opens the coffin, we see the hand come around the throat. The whole setup to it is just beautifully done by the writers and beautifully performed by the actors. Really great job by everybody. Fred, Dennis Patrick, John Carlin, just really great acting in that whole scene.
Yes,
it really is.
Yeah. What's something that shocked you most about Barnabas's appearance?
I guess his physical appearance, or just like
in general, like him showing up, him coming out of the coffin, him coming to Collinwood.
Honestly, him getting that acclimated to 20th century clothes that precisely and that quickly.
Yeah.
From where his only source of information is Willie, who I don't think has been, chasing down the Brooks Brothers catalog lately.
Yeah. Bobby, what did you
seriously
think?
Yeah, I thought honestly, like how just well he was like able to just like assimilate to all these like new people that he's never seen before. How he was just like immediately able to fit in, because yes, he seems a little bit different, but like he fits in enough with them where it doesn't. You just, if you didn't know, you would think maybe he's just like a little eccentric.
I have a theory. I think being hungry for that long really got as much humanity as possible out of him. And I think probably not only draining Willie, but then draining all of those cats. He only partially drained Willie, but then going after all those cows. I think he just gorged on blood. And I think that ramped up his powers so much that just psychically he was able to pull what he needed from the brains around, just walk down the street and or fly over them as a bat. And suddenly he's picking up, okay, this is how you tie a Windsor knot. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. This is who Roger is. This is who Liz is. This is who David is. You know, I'm picking this all up. Yeah.
I think when he bit Willie and he started draining him, he saw what Willie went through.
Yes.
Everybody Willie interacted with.
Yes.
That's sort of part of his psychic. When he's draining somebody, he doesn't have to ask them nothing because he's already got the information. He just wants clarification from them exactly what he saw.
The Innovation comics in the early 90s that are based on the 91 series actually have what happens to Barnabas in the coffin and in the tomb in dealing with Willie. And yeah, he does drain Willie of his mind, and he does get Willie to basically give him a crash course on the 20th century. And it was a good moment, and it was a wise move. I really like that scene. I mean, I remember it 30 years later, more like 35 years later.
What did you guys think of his first interaction with Catherine Lee Scott's Maggie Evans in the diner? Bobby?
Oh, it's such a classic scene. I love it. I love how he's so polite. But he's like, he's thinking. He's like figuring out what he wants to do, but he's like able to be like so in sync with her. And I love the classic bit of just like leaving something behind.
Well, it's like something out of Happy Days also. It's this sitcom moment. It's lovable. It's a scheme so he can see her again. It's like it's a very kind of schoolboy sort of, gee, I left my cane behind. Hi, Miss Evans. Fancy meeting you here. Yeah. And it's adorable.
Yeah.
We got to take his cane back to him. Mr. Collins left his cane.
It just and Barnabas, the moment all that happens, he's just thinking, still got it. You know?
Right, yeah.
It's like Jeremiah was right. Jeremiah's old scheme worked for me.
It's cute, It's like you can say, and you kind of get the impression that maybe he did that before when he was a human, like.
I don't think Barnabas ever did it. I don't think Barnabas had the guts to pull it off, but I think he saw Jeremiah do it different times. The old number 7. Jeremiah just probably kept a trunk full of canes in Martin. and at some point, like 3 or 4 women all showed up with the same cane. And they all saw each other and saw Jeremiah and raised the cane. I said, Barnabas, run. God, what a moment in the movie, in the Dark Shadows movie, that would have made.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. I like how when he's hired Sam to paint his portrait, it's like, yeah, sure, Sam, I'll pay you some money, but I'll kidnap your daughter too.
It's a 2-for-1.
Right, exactly. It's like the value. Oh, I'm getting 2 for 1. Great.
And it's perfect because then he could learn more about her. It's.
Yeah. What did you guys think of Kathleen Lee Scott actually in Josette's dress? When she comes down the steps and she's in the old house and she's holding the music box. What did you guys think of that?
Dark Cinderella.
Yeah.
Dark Cinderella. It's great. Speaking of Dark Cinderella, I have to go. You guys keep going. I know it's horribly unprofessional, but I do. You guys keep going. Bobby, check your messages. And Joel, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Link to the dark when we get done. Link to the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound. The physical edition will be in the description box.
Now, if I turn this off, Joel, is this going to kill the broadcast?
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You should
Okay.
be. You should be. What did you think of her dancing like that, Bobby? Her being in Josette's dress.
Very haunting.
Yeah.
Very, very, very ghostly. You could see it like Barnabas' plan is like kind of starting to. It could have worked.
Yeah. It reminded me of when Josette's ghost first came out of the portrait a bit. It was you're right, it's very ghostly. And it's very, very eerie at the same time. Because David sees her. And it's like, oh crap.
Yeah. Because then because it's like the next step of actually seeing the ghost because even though she's Maggie Evans, she is in those moments she is starting to become Josette.
I forgot to tell you guys what shocked me most about Barnabas coming into the 20th century a bit. When he first came, to me, what shocked me most was not just his interactions with people, but how it's one thing to interact with his family, but when he was in the Blue Whale and how comfortable he was.
Yeah.
He was very much at ease with complete strangers. And especially Burke. I mean, and we've seen how Burke sees through people.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like it's crazy. Jonathan Frid doesn't have much interaction with Mitchell Ryan. I think this is one. There's just this time here, and there might be another, but great chemistry they had.
I always loved it when he says, "When one has this cane, one does not need a swagger."
Yep.
It's like that, like the little interaction, but it's unforgettable.
Absolutely, it is, and it's nice. It was nice to see this. Here's this guy from another time and a whole nother era, and he's interacting with a complete stranger, hey, no big deal. And I love it. It's really, it showed you how smart the writers were being with the character. And then, I love what you guys said too, because I think that showed the same thing. And it's really cool to see something like that. What did you think? What's your favorite Barnabas Collins special effect moment? Do you have one?
Special effect moment? What do you mean?
Or when he disappears or reappears, when he mind controls somebody, when he shows the fans. What's your favorite moment of Bart from when he smashes with his cane? What's your favorite special effect moment of his?
Oh, you know what? Dude, I like when he makes Julia's world kind of turn upside down.
Yeah.
That's because that's like a power that you don't expect him to have.
Yeah.
And he really, he could drive someone insane.
Yeah.
And it's really, I think that's one of the most frightening powers.
My favorite special effect moment involves Gasoline when he sets the Todd's shop on fire.
Yeah.
There will be never breathing from this room, any room again. Jesus Christ! I'm like Barnabas has lost it. He's lost it now. But just a cool moment. There's so many Barnabas moments that are just amazing.
Jack, he worked well with the special effects.
He did. I know he didn't love the fans, but I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, he really did. When you think of someone who didn't have experience with that, but he fell into it so well.
I love how you could tell when he had him in when he was talking, but he talked good with them in.
Yeah.
You could tell he has the fans in and he's talking. I'm thinking, and he's talking. I'm thinking, oh shit, he's got the fans This is going to be a massacre.
Yeah, you know it's coming. You know it's coming.
like, like you're just wanting to tell the person to run. Good or bad. It's like because Barnabas could be just like he's he's gonna take you out. I mean that's
Yeah.
but he did a really great job with him, man. I know Jonathan didn't love doing the biting, but I actually loved how he had the fans in and how he could talk really well with them in.
He did really well with. I'm impressed by how he was able to do all that because it's you could see like what a great command of his voice he had.
Yeah.
He was able to, and like I said, I mean before Dark Shadows he had no experience wearing fangs, but he had such power in his voice that he was able to overcome it so easily.
What's your favorite moment between Jason and Willie? Yeah, one.
The they're also good. I I like when they're at the bar at the Blue Whale,
Yeah.
and Jason McGuire, and he sees he knows something's wrong,
Yeah.
But he can't figure out what. I love that scene because you actually you do see the bond between them.
Yeah.
And it kind of rounds out Jason McGuire. It's shifty as he is, he does care about Willie.
Yeah.
And so and then when he sees the why are there specks of blood on your sleeve?
Yeah.
And you see that even Jason McGuire has his own standards.
Yeah.
Because he's a blackmailer. He's a very shifty character, but he's not he's not like a serial killer.
No, he's not a murderer.
Yeah.
That Paul Stoddard's death is faked.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's not a killer. And here's this guy who sees blood on his friend's sleeve. It's like, where did you get that?
Yeah.
He's sort of worried, did Willie kill? I think at first he's worried, did Willie kill somebody?
That's the impression I get too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love the scene you're describing. I know what you're talking about, where Willie just he's dragging ass in a Blue Whale, and Burke's dad was like, remember what I told you, Willie? And Willie's like, please just, I'm sorry. He's like, you're sorry? I didn't think you knew the meaning.
Right, yeah.
Great interaction between Mitchell Ryan and John Carlin. But even Burke's like, I think something's wrong with your friend.
Right, yeah, because even he's gone so far that even Burke, you could tell even Burke's a little concerned.
He knows something. Burke knows something's wrong too.
Right, yeah.
I think one of my favorites is when Jason, when Willie's like, hey, when do I get the money? And this is right before John Carlin's Willie Loomis leaves to go release Barnabas. And then Jason leaves, walks up to her, and Willie just bolts forgetfulness. I love that because he doesn't say forget this. It's just his whole body language is screaming, I'm tired of waiting.
Yeah, yeah.
John Carlin did a hell of a job. I have no more questions for you. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
I actually do have a question for you. Sure. How would you compare how Willie releases Barnabas in the series versus House of Dark Shadows?
It's really simplistic because here's the thing: Tubi has this description, and it's wrong. It should be for the movie, but it shouldn't be. Handyman Willie Loomis. Now, in the movie, yes, Willie Loomis is a handyman. He works for the Collins family. He's not an employee of the Collins family member in the series. He's a thief who arrives in town with his friend Jason McGuire. And that's how I explain it every time to people. I said, here's the difference. And another difference is where the sort of a similar difference is Willie is tired of waiting for Jason to give him money. So he takes his own initiative by researching the Collins family history and to do a little grave robbing. He's with House, and this isn't quite similar, but it sort of is, because again, he's tired of his employer's crap.
Right.
He's tired of Jason. Willie's tired of Jason's crap.
Right. Yeah.
It's similar, but it's different in a sense. Mm-hmm. But there are big similarities. They're not big similarities. They're big differences, and there's small similarities. The small similarity is John Carlin is playing Willie Loomis in both. But they're different versions of Willie here. Mm-hmm. With this Willie, with House of Dark Shadows, Willie, we know Barnabas is a menace in that movie.
Oh yeah,
he's meant to be. And John Carlin really sells it when he's talking to Kathleen Lee Scott's Maggie Evans. Like that's a moment where things are gonna go really bad here. And Willie's sort of the unreluctant, unsung hero of House of Dark Shadows.
He is. Yeah, he is.
And that's another way. I mean, those are ways I describe Willie in House. Like, here's the difference. Willie was working for the Collins family. Yes, he was the handyman. He was the groundskeeper. He worked for them. He got tired of Roger and the family stuff, and he wanted some money of his own, so he decides to do a little grave robbery. He has no idea there's a vampire. In the series, he if it weren't for Jason McGuire coming into town, we never see Willie Loomis. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't think Mark Gilman pointed this out really good too. He said the same thing. And I agree with him, because Willie has no reason to go to Collinsport. There's nothing for him there.
Yeah.
Without Jason bringing him there, Willie never shows up. And I think Jason's importance is bringing Willie, ultimately. Mm-hmm. That's another thing too with the description you could add, because it's true. Jason's importance, the blackmail for the story is fun, but his ultimate importance is bringing the character who's going to release Barnabas Collins.
Right, yeah.
So that's just ways, I describe it. I hope that helps.
No, that does. That definitely does. I always wonder in House of Dark Shadows, like how the Collinses hired him in the first place.
I think they just hired. I think with House, they just hired people, and again, the 70s. I think there were want ads in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
So he may have just answered one, or he just.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because again, the 70s, there weren't computers.
Right.
There were, they could just put it in one that, hey, we need help, and he could have answered it. But I get the sense, though, too, he's been working there for a long time, though, too. So I get the sense he's been there. I get the sense that Willie is more of a native of Collinsport in the movie than I do the series. Because the series, he's not.
Right, yeah.
He's not from Collinsport. I get the sense in the movie that may have changed. Now, they don't say that, but there's the interaction with Kathleen Lee Scott's Maggie Owens. He's known Maggie a long time.
Yeah.
Going up to her like that. I hope I've helped.
No, you certainly have, yeah.
So House of Dark Shadows is a fun watch. Every October 1st, that is literally going to be my first movie I put in for the 31 days of Halloween.
So. It's wonderful, it's because it's all the characters, all the actors, and
is there a movie that is there a sequel you like better than the original, or like as much as the original to a movie?
I mean, I like maybe Bride of Frankenstein. I think is like I like Frankenstein.
My uncontested, now it's not better than the original, but I think it's just as good as Predator 2. Mm-hmm. It's more of a horror story, and it's a detective story too. Yeah. And Danny Glover is not Arnold Schwarzenegger, he matches wits with the Predator.
Yeah.
And I didn't see Arnold having a space shank off of with a killer frisbee. And so there's this. The Predator has this killer frisbee that cuts through people in half, and Danny Glover's character has it, and he's fighting. The Predator now has one arm because Glover's character cut the other arm off with the same frisbee, and the Predator with his like those claw things he has is swinging at the claws, and Danny Glover's blocking it with the killer frisbee. And Danny Glover's character kills him with the murder frisbee. I don't know what to call it other than a murder frisbee. It's a fun watch if you've ever seen it. But that's that I really enjoy. It's not as great as I really enjoy Halloween too. More than
it's really good too. Yeah,
it's a fun watch. Someone's like, "Do you mind all the hospitals?" Like, the hospital is so short staffed. I'm like, I live in a small town, dude. You should see the hospital here.
Really, it's like that.
Well, the one time I was in the emergency room, there were only 3 nurses and 1 doctor.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, but no, it's not like that every night. But there's just nights there's not a lot of people on staff. It's a small town,
and it makes sense. Like Halloween night, like a lot of people knew calling sick, and
like, they mention a Halloween party's taking place, and there's other doctors at that other Halloween party, so that Lori's parents are at. They're not at that party. Laura's parents skipped town.
Right.
Yeah, we adopted the sister of Michael Myers. I think it's time to check out. You don't say. That's
Halloween.
I said once, listen, Laurie Strode, they say this is about fate, and it is. I said, but Laurie Strode, she's either got the best or worst luck, either way you look at it. It's like, on one hand, you got this guy that likes you, and he's a paramedic. On the other hand, your brother's a serial killer. He's coming for your ass. And it's funny. But yeah, first of all, thank you to Patrick who signed off. I know he'll listen to this. Thank you to Patrick McCray for joining in on with us. And thank you again, Bobby, as well, for joining me again. Thank you so much, man. This has been a lot of fun. Links, yes, to the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound is going to be the description box, if I can get my words right. Link to the Lugosi Theater on YouTube is going to be in the description box. Man, Bobby, thank you so much, dude.
No, thank you so much for having me. I love that.
I love the shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
But meaning to compliment it, just we got all to talking. But again, thank you so.
It was a ball talking with you guys.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad Patrick messaged me. He's like, "What are you doing tonight?" I'm like, "I'm doing something with Bobby." I said, "Why don't you come on?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I'm in."
Oh, because I see his name on like the books, and he's such a great writer. Like, he's so easy to talk to. He's so nice.
He's super nice, dude. He is. Like, Patrick's a super cool dude. But so, yeah, I'm glad I could get you to meet him and talk to him. He's really cool. But thank you so much, Bobby. Thank you so much, man, for joining me these past couple days. We'll set something down the road here. Eventually, I have other videos coming up, so I'll get in touch with you, I promise.
Wonderful. Thank you.
But thank you so much for joining me, and links are going to be in the description box, guys, again, to the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound and to Lugosi Theater. You have a good night, Bobby.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.